board.
So summer is fun. We were just all three of us. Dave's like, so it's miserable for everybody this year.
Oh my God, it's not even like the schedule is all fucky, which it is. It's even Fisher today. Fisher's normally like a super good dog, but today he was just full puppy. Like he woke up at 5 o'clock barking, come pay attention to me. And he's just been a puppy all day long. He's been
be a puppy.
Well, I love
what
that he's
he
a puppy.
He is?
A puppy. Yeah. Well, I love that he's a puppy, but he was extra puppy today. And my son is turning 13 this weekend, so he's extra puppy.
Oh. Wow. 13. Wow.
Yeah, he's 13. And Haley's been in driving school all week for the last couple of weeks, which is also crazy. Like
she's loving.
I'm moments so they watched Red Asphalt yesterday. She texted me from class. Yeah, because we've been talking about it. I said, hey, have you watched Red Asphalt yesterday? And then she texted me, today is Red Asphalt Day.
Now, that's interesting because when I did driver's ed, I had heard all those cliches. Now I'm talking when I did it. So, it was a little while ago. And ours was like, more PC. I mean, it was still a little bit of a scare.
Oh, I would have done it about the same year as you, right?
Well, I know. That's what I'm saying. Like
we had Red Asphalt.
Well, I didn't even know that was a thing. I thought that was a joke because ours was just like, drive safely.
Wait, did you all have to go to driver's ed? I didn't. I just took my test.
The license. Yeah, we did.
Yeah, I think
I didn't have to do driver's ed. I just went and took the test and got my license.
We did. Maybe that's what makes you so judgmental of other drivers. You don't know what they've gone through. Maybe I don't
probably
know.
Doing it all wrong.
Maybe you are.
Maybe that's why Florida has such bad drivers.
Maybe you don't know why. Yeah, in California, I'm pretty sure it's the law. You need to get your permit before you can. Or you need to get a certain number of hours at a certified school.
Yeah, that's what it was in Ohio. Dave's gonna go to England sometime and be like, it's so much better driving over here. He drives on the correct side of the road.
Yeah, so it has been crazy. But she texted yesterday, it's Red Asphalt Day, and then later in all caps, so many dead babies. I did not sign up for this because there are a lot of dead babies in Red Asphalt 3, apparently. Wow. She was also offended that they showed her Red Asphalt 3 when why not Red Asphalt 5, which was filmed in 2005. So hers was from...
I didn't know this franchise. It is fascinating to our listeners, I'm sure.
It's like Saw.
Yeah. Right. I want to see Red Asphalt 5. Dave, do you watch Red Asphalt, the series, for pleasure?
I've never seen it. Hold on, I have a better callback. Hey, Dave, did your grandma rent Red Asphalt for you? Right, so
yeah, she had the box set.
So let's move to something cool.
All right, Dave. Any commenting stuff going on this week or anything?
My something cool. I don't know if it'll be cool yet. I'm kind of nervous after reading reviews, but Cars 3 is out this weekend, and I'm going to take my son to see it at some point. Reviews have not been very kind to it. Basically, the best...
Oh, come on, Pixar.
Well, I think people are kind of assholes towards Pixar. I think they're expecting a little bit more. I think if you like Cars 1, then you might like this. It basically says it's better than Cars 2.
That would not be hard. That's disappointing. I really want them to have a home run with Cars 3 because I did hate Cars 2 and I do love Pixar.
I'll let you know the truth when I go see it. Because I obviously have great taste in movies. I mean,
well, I hope that there's like a minute-long oil leaking scene.
Yeah,
like,
you know Mater's going to be like leaking oil.
Awesome. For a minute. It's got to be a minute. It's only funny if it's a minute.
Wouldn't that be great if they did some sort of a crossover with Cars 3 and Red Asphalt?
That would be fantastic.
That would be a dark direction.
Yeah,
probably have eyes and characters.
I would totally see that. Yeah. So Johnny, anything cool?
Yes, I am reading. It's actually my second Joe Hill book, Nosferatu, which is very good. Highly recommended.
What was the first one you read by him?
Heart-Shaped Box, which was his debut. And that was years ago. But my dad is a heavy King. He's a heavy reader in general, but he's the one who got me into King. And he's like, man, you got to read more. In Horns, he said Horns was really good. He said, you got to read more Joe Hill. It's like the apple really didn't fall far from the tree. And I have to agree. It's like reading.
Did you read Owen as well, or no?
No, I haven't. I didn't even know that Owen, is he just Owen King, or did he use a pen name?
No, he uses a real name.
Okay. No, I actually didn't even know he was writing. But have you read Owen King?
No, I got one by him. I also got a Fireman by Joe Hill. That looks really good.
Yeah, my dad.
Have you read it yet?
Really
No,
good.
not yet.
Wedding Scene?
No, I haven't even cracked it open yet. I got it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm only about a third of the way through it, so it's possible that he totally fucks up the ending. But the
Well, you said the apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
right, well, exactly. So, but I'm it's interesting because I'm reading it, as we do as writers. Like I'm reading it a little more like a writer, and I'm noticing there's a thing that Stephen King does in a lot of his books, and Joe does it too, where it's almost it's an omniscient point of view thing, but it's also a little wink wink in a way. Like this, they'll say a line like, they wouldn't know until much later that, or something like that. It's like, just by the way, this thing.
Yeah, I think that voice is super dangerous, but I think if you're really good at it, it's awesome. And King is really good at it.
Well, I would say Joe is as well.
I heard Joe Hill on that interview. I think it might have been on the Nerdist Writers panel one, maybe, or it was on another Nerdist one. But I heard my interview talking about, and I really liked the way he talked about stories. It felt like very much like the way we think of stories. Cool.
Yeah, that's really cool. I should pick that up. I love the cover. I've noticed the cover. I've just never picked it up. Just because like if I get to the 300 books on my list already, I'll be super happy.
It's a very King concept. Like, again, it feels like something. It feels like a companion. It's not the same as it, but it feels like that. You know what I mean? Like that sort of thing.
Yeah, that's right up my alley.
And
Beth asked if we've read Tabitha King. I have not.
I have not either.
It's really good.
Yeah, I believe it. Okay, so I want to branch out something cool. Also, I want to do something relevant.
Yeah, wait. Before you do that, I want to say, if I were Tabitha and Stephen King, I would want to release, have her write a book and release it under his name, and vice versa, to see if anybody how they treat them differently because of the established name and everything. I think that'd be a pretty cool thing to try.
Yeah, I would love to do that, actually. No, I'm with you. I'm totally with you.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So I think sometimes instead of cool things, we have relevant things. And so I have something cool, but this is something relevant to our business, which I think is relevant to the audience. And it's just kind of really fun. So this week for my job, I really got to step into the role of kind of the showrunner. And I was thinking about this just before the show, and I got to touch every single part of the process this week. So I'm story shopping.
By the way, I'm filing restraining order for the way you touched me.
I saw that joke coming.
I had a lot of story shopping for what is currently like my favorite thing that we're going to be doing in the immediate future. I wrote a short story for Collective Inkwell. I edited The Project That Will Not Die for Realm and Sands. I polished that same short story. I even worked on the very beginnings of a script for our Eros line. And it was just, and worked on post-production for the rest of the Karma series. And it was really interesting to kind of, across the breadth of projects and our three primary imprints, to kind of be touching everything like that. And it was really, really fun. And it's indicative of the way we're rolling everything forward. And that was just really creatively and business-wise fulfilling this week. So that was just something relevant. Something cool is there's this book that I'm reading called Liminal Thinking.
I got that.
You got that? Okay, well, I'm glad, because you're one of the people I would recommend it to. Like, there's not a lot of new in this book at all. I haven't heard anything new, in fact, except one idea, which I'm going to talk about right now, which I love. I think this was a book recommendation from Kelly McClymer, but I'm not 100% positive. But it's a short read, and it's basically about, you have to change your perceptions about things, because if you're really locked into a certain way of thinking, then you don't know what your blind spots are, and you don't know how other people perceive you, and you don't know how locked into a way of thinking you get. It's a little bit like the mindset book, but different. Anyway, he gave vocabulary to something that I've never quite known how to define, and I love it. So he calls it, when people are, you see it a lot in politics, really on both sides. This is not a partisan thing. It's a human thing where you become really convinced of your position. So everything that's in opposition to it is the enemy, and you aren't critically thinking.
Like that.
Right. So you'll love this, dude. You're going to love this. So the term for that is self-sealing logic. And that basically, once you have self-sealing logic, nothing can get in and you don't see the world. So let's say, I don't know, that you attack a big company for doing something in a way that you disagree with. And you don't have any evidence to back it up, what this company is doing. You have an opinion. And so you get really violent about this opinion. And you can't actually see the truth of the matter because your world perspective is skewing you so much. That's self-sealing logic. And I just love the term. It's so elegantly phrased, and I've never had the language to describe that exact thing before, and I love it.
So what's the solution? I mean, you can change your mindset, but how do you change somebody else's mindset when they're locked in like that? You can't.
I don't think you do. I think you walk away. Like, I mean, you still amaze me to this day, dude, because you will engage. You will engage in a losing
try to help everybody.
But it's not when you know that. I think that's the key. I think it's looking for ways that you can change your own behavior, but also recognize your own triggers. And so if now you have the vocabulary, Dave, now you know that somebody else is using self-sealing logic, walk away, because you're not going to convince them because they're using self-sealing logic.
I've already given up on a number of people.
Well, I think that you're not going to change them. So all you're doing is emptying your own, will and emptying your own vitality. And there's just, if you can change somebody's mind for the better and help them see the world in a new way, I always think that's a positive thing to do. But I do think that there are times when people are in this position. And again, that's why I love the term self-sealing logic, because it's so evident of what it is. Then they have a varnish over them that you're not going to penetrate. And so your energy is better spent just with an about face and go do something else, because it's an immovable force.
What about punching them?
Well, that could work, but you might get your hand all sticky on the.
That's true.
So
anyway, today's topic.
Yes.
You want me to introduce it, I guess?
Yeah.
I believe it's yours, son.
All right. Well, I don't know. Usually Johnny sets it up, and then but okay. So today's it's brainstorming 2, Electric Boogaloo. We did a brainstorming episode. How long ago was that? Like 6 months ago? I don't know.
I don't know. Time is really fuzzy. I think it was 6 months ago.
Summertime.
Yeah.
We did a brainstorming episode not too long ago, and it was a lot of fun.
I want to raise my hand on something. I hate to interrupt you there, Dave, but I just want to call out the fact that after we recorded that episode, we came up with Dave's going to describe it, so I am just totally jumping the gun, but whatever. Like, we each described a short, and we were going to write and package them together. Dave's version is published, and I haven't written mine yet. So you really kicked my ass on this.
Not only has he not written it yet, but Realm and Sands is still on the same project that we were when we made up this story. So Go, Dave. Yeah.
Wow. I just figured you didn't like your idea, so you were just not going to write it.
Well, I don't really want to write it. I may fall.
You don't have to.
Well, I mean, Sean said I have to.
So last time we took ideas from the audience, and we Sean and Johnny brainstormed first, and then it was supposed to be Sean and me brainstorming, but I had already brainstormed an idea out before he got to me.
This is not an unusual thing.
Yeah, Dave's email on this was funny. He's just like, well, I was just ignoring them and scribbling notes.
And that book is out now. Dark Crossings, Infinite Door. It's a short story. If you saw that podcast, you already know what happens. But we added a lot of stuff to it to flesh it out, make it a good story. And I think some people described it as heartbreaking, and it's getting good reviews.
I'm sorry. Hold on. A CI story with a romantic element was described as heartbreaking.
Yeah, big shock.
I can't believe it.
That's crazy talk.
So it was. I like writing short stories, and I like to do it like when we're between things. And I was eager to get to this one because it was one of those things that just felt really good when we were like doing the show, and like the energy was there. And I like getting us all together and kind of doing that, because there's an energy that isn't there when you're brainstorming on your own. So this week we asked people at the Facebook group for Smarter Artists to give us some stuff here that we could work with, character settings and situations. And this time we're going to do it a little differently. We're not going to team up, but we're going to do it all together.
Like it should be.
Yes, a threesome, if you will.
A threesome. This is our first threesome.
Yes. And we're gonna see what we come up with, and it'll be live on the air, and there might be long stretches of silence where nobody's talking. It's gonna be really good for like audio.
Well, but for you out there, like we're going to talk about our processes for brainstorming as well, because this is something, we talked about way back with Fiction Unboxed, the idea that like ideas aren't really precious. Like there are ideas out there, but also
9 are, every one of them.
Well, but I mean, yeah, we know like a lot of writers bang their heads against the wall and just like, where are all the good ideas? I can't come up with good ideas. So I think we want to dissect the process as well as showing you the process.
Well, this week actually, or this past week, because I'm in the middle of writing the second book in our crime vigilante series. But
you wanted to say the title, didn't you?
I think we said it on the air once before. I don't know, but regardless, I have because we just published this Dark Crossing short story, and I'm thinking, oh, I got all these other ideas that are coming to me. So I've been carrying around a book with me, like whenever we're doing anything, like when I'm supposed to be spending time with my family. I'm like,
I was going to make that joke. You made it for me.
Wow, this is a really efficient show.
And we've already got like 7 or 8 different ideas that I'm like looking forward to writing. Like I like brainstorming. Like I like going out in public. Like I like going to a restaurant. Or
you do not like going out in public.
Well, I like going out in public but ignoring everybody. Or like I'll watch people. Like I love people watching, and like that'll just sort of like, because I don't think you can. It's hard to create when you're like always like in a room like I am. Like it's hard without any input of any kind. You're kind of left to your own devices, and it becomes stale. So like I need to go out. Like for a worst show ever. Like this show sucks when I don't go out for the week.
It's really true.
That's a little different.
But it's always really good when his family comes home early and he's angry about it.
Yes. So how do you guys brainstorm?
Well, Sean, traditionally for our stories, most of that work is done by Sean up front, and then we'll meet on what he comes up with. We don't usually do from scratch. You guys do from scratch, right? Or no, like, yeah, how do you guys work?
Exactly? Yeah, we do from scratch. We'll pretty much say, okay, this is the kind of thing that we want to. We'll start with an idea, and it could be as simple as X happens to Y. Or it could be a concept. We want to write a story about this kind of thing. But it always starts with a conversation, and then we hit a few reference points, because then that tells us kind of what colors we want to play with. And then we just kind of talk until we're, okay. And then there's usually like a rolling sense of excitement when we know that we're kind of edging around some very common ground, and the ideas are starting to really take shape. And then Dave will start talking faster. He mostly in the beginning, there's a lot of jumping from one idea to the next, and there's not
uncertainty phase.
It's really just like, what if this, or what if that, or did you see this thing? And we're both talking about scenes from movies that we like, and just we're really kind of hunting for vibe. I think vibe is the first thing we're kind of looking for, and then once we're we found kind of the neighborhood we like, then we start looking for houses, right?
There's a weird thing that happens in the process, though. Like in the beginning, like if I don't already have an idea, like a lot of times ideas will come to me like when I'm on my own and I'm writing, and like it's just like this energetic sort of lightning that I have to chase, and that's great. But when it's not that, like if we're meeting for a story that, like the next book in the series or something, and I don't have any ideas for it other than like a few that I written down before, that's the difficult part. But then as you start to go a little more, like it starts to widen out. We start like all the possibilities are what like really excite me. And that's like the best time, like when anything can happen. But then as you start to limit yourself to choices again and decisions, and you have to lock in the story, then I start to kind of like, oh no, then I start to like lose interest because it's narrowing down too much.
Yeah, this is really universal. And one thing I think it's really essential to take away from this conversation is that, yes, we're collaborating and we're talking about, a lot of different ways of collaborating because we have, me and Dave and me and Johnny, but this is also independent. Dave collaborates on his own. I collaborate on my own with myself. Johnny collaborates with himself. Just today,
I have to understand what you mean by collaborate with yourself.
Well, because anybody who's listening has a relationship with their inner artist, with their muse, with their, right? Because right now on the project that won't die, ours, you're hashing out a lot of this third act stuff by yourself. You're in Story Shop and you've got the beats out there and you're doing all of that. So a lot of that it's maybe, based on earlier collaboration that we did, but you're hashing through most of that in that third act stuff right now. So you're kind of having to have that relationship, with yourself, which I think is relatable for a lot of people listening because they aren't in collaborative relationships.
All right. Well, I think it's a maybe. I mean, I wouldn't have called a one person thing collaboration. That's a little far from me, but the spirit of it, I definitely agree with as you're saying it, because it is a give and take, which is interesting. So,
well, I'm trying to say it's a process that there's so Dave just described this, then this, then this, and it's this whole thing that we always go through with every project. But even on my own, like for the thing that I'm outlining for us right now, there's definitely a process to it. And in the very beginning, it's this story that could be anything. And you heard my original couple pitches from it. Like they didn't even kind of resemble what we ended up with. But then this story can be anything. And then you add more elements, you add characters, you add motivations, and all of a sudden, well, okay, crap. Like I'm stuck in this neighborhood because my kid goes to school there. Like all of a sudden you made the rules that keep you fixed where you are. And so like Dave said, now you have constraints. And with those constraints, how well can you construct a story?
Yeah. I mean, where I was going was it's question and answer. So as I'm writing, like, because what's happening with me is we're trying to find a more efficient system with Sean and I where we're better mapped out at the beginning, because I'm learning, as I mentioned a few shows ago, more than ever, it matters. Like I'm really getting that lesson of if I come to the page knowing I need to write, I'm less able to wing it on this project anyway. Our things do tend to get complex, and it's like, well, how many people are involved? And it's not linear. And so as I'm writing, it's been something where I'm realizing, okay, that's something I still have to figure out. And it's some form of question. Like it basically boils down to, why did this person do that? What was the reason that this person wasn't able to reach this person at one time? I'm looking for logical flaws. Like in our current project, somebody needs to be communicating with somebody else and there needs to be a misunderstanding. So between them, so that means like, well, how is that possible? Like, how could it be that one person is communicating information in a way that they would be very clear, and the other is understanding that the need for clarity, but they're somehow not able to sync up? And so it's a question of like, how could that occur? Or why would this person do this if they knew this? But it's always questions. And so it's always like, and then I'll pace around, or I'll sit here and I'll be like, okay, so why would they do this? And that's the same thing when it's Sean and I. Why would they do this? What's the reason for this? It's always a question. So I see why you mean back and forth.
Yeah, the questions are really essential. So the Dark Crossings shorts that we write, they're kind of, Dave and I write them to impress each other. Like my ideal reader for a Dark Crossing story is going to be Dave 100% of the time. And so I had to think of the ending for this. I had most of the structure in place and I kind of knew, but I didn't know what I was going to really do in the ending. And so I went on a walk. I didn't take my phone or headphones or anything, or Fisher. Like I tried to go for a walk, and I was determined that by the time I'd get back, I'd know. And I did. And it was just questions after questions after questions. And a lot of the questions were like, okay, well, would Dave delight in that? And so it is asking yourself those questions, and then being, unafraid to ask yourself questions again, because sometimes it's easy to take the first answer because, oh, now I'm done. Now I have an answer. I asked myself a question and now I know the answer. But a lot of times that answer is not good enough. And so I was going on a 40-minute walk and I knew it wouldn't take me 40 minutes to come up with something good. But I also knew that if I didn't have something to listen to, like if I came up, I know myself. And if I came up with an answer that was good enough, I'd pop the headphones in and I'd listen to a podcast or something else and, spend 20 minutes that way. But instead, I didn't take anything because I knew that I had to spend my whole time with that problem. And so when I came up with good answers, I pushed them to get better answers. And I think that that's a really good takeaway too, that don't settle for your first or second or even third idea, because the more you push, the better the ideas get. And that is a big benefit of collaboration because that process happens faster. So that's kind of what I mean by collaboration of one. It's not that the elements themselves are different, because they're really not. It's that the process itself can be so much faster because it happens in an accelerated way because you naturally have the volley of dialogue.
For me, it has to happen in layers and waves. That's something that I think what we've been doing with our system that isn't quite right. It's not between Sean and I, it's not, the outline isn't robust enough, and so I struggle during the draft. Maybe it's just this project. We'll have to see. I think that we aren't getting enough passes. So usually we start with like, well, this could happen, then this could happen, then this could happen. But then we want to pass one more time and go, okay, but how could that happen? And then, this, then this, and well, wait a minute, what about this person? We forgot about this person over here. It's not just layers of like new nuance, like how can we make it better? How can we make the ideas more interesting? For me anyway, it's also like, well, how exactly would that work? So we had a very big question of, okay, well, this person needs to go to this place and learn this thing. And, like there were moments in our meetings where we were like, okay, well, they can just get together and learn this thing. And they're like, no, that doesn't, the pieces, I need to know how they move. Like we have this person over here, they need to learn something, they need to go here. We need to get them all in the same room or have them able to discuss. And then just story-wise, like there are two sort of major revelations at climactic moments, and we need to know what order they go in and what's the conversational thread that leads from one to the other. What are the actions? And then you get into things like the natural rhythm of a story. So there are times when you just want to punch, but there are times when you want to punch and then recover and give the reader time to like, I don't know, form a new assumption or relax or something. So anyway, I could explain this to death, but should we just go into the story and maybe break out as we come up with ideas for?
Yes.
Yeah, that sounds good to me.
K. Morgan asks, do we focus on one project at a time, or do you have multiple projects in various states of production? I like to focus on one. Sean kind of has...
Yeah, the company focuses on many at a time. But artistically, no. Like Johnny's working on one thing. Dave's working on one thing. But as a showrunner, it's a little different. Like imagine, what J.J. Abrams did before he, before Star Wars was his big project when he was doing TV. There's many TV shows there, but his layers of involvement are kind of rotating.
All right. So we got character, setting, situations, and things. I'll start with the characters, and I guess we'll decide which one we want to go with. A lot of people put goofy stuff just because it's us, and trying to get a laugh. I'm not writing a humorous story, so if you want that, I don't know what to say.
You can turn anything dark.
Yeah, you can turn anything dark.
Mr. Robot turned elf dark.
Yeah, just watch it. Right, exactly. Yeah, we got this.
Characters: blind child, 90-year-old immigrant woman, single mother superhero, a compulsive liar, an odd job man, the random guy in the bar that everyone seems to know, an evil podiatrist.
Oh my God, I like this list.
A young girl or boy whose only friend is a tree in their backyard. I think that might be one of Monster Calls, though. A geisha, a true one, not the Americanized caricature, of course. A dog searching for his owner who left one day and never came back. I like that. Depressing ass. A dragon who just wants to be left alone already. named Dave. The Last Dinosaur. A group of people whose powers manifest through spoken spell battles versus just waving of hands and throwing out potions or whatnot. A young woman.
That's kind of awesome.
A young woman whose phone is haunted by a victim of a texting while driving accident. I like that. Patient who discovers her hives outbreak was really an alien virus. I had that happen once. Strangers in an elevator. Prisoner cuffed on a plane. Zombie warlord. Everyone's favorite mayor of Redacted. So that's our character. Do we want to choose before we go down the next list? Or do you want to go down the next list?
I feel like I need the concept before I need to know who.
Yeah. Let's move to concept.
Okay. So setting or situation?
Setting. No, let's go setting. I want to imagine setting.
Okay. A working shipyard, one with boats out on blocks, some shiny new and bring work done, some obviously left to rust rot. A nail salon for human trafficking. I assume all nail salons are human traffic fronts. A traveling carnival, a suburban haunted house business,
Oh, that's hot.
a redwood forest canopy, Berkeley math conference. Now that's sexy.
Berkeley math
What does
conference.
it say that one is the one that lit me up right away?
Right, I was like, Berkeley math conference. What shit is going down there?
No, because think about like some of the really cool things we've seen out of like A Beautiful Mind or something.
No, it's so highly specific.
Or Goodwill Hunting.
Yeah, no, it's that's cool.
Lost city in a desert, a cabin on stilts in a swamp, underground bunker with door that won't close tight. It was a dark and stormy night.
What was the desert one again?
Lost City.
Lost city in the desert.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, I like that too. Okay.
Do we want to go on situations now?
Yes, please.
Trying Tabasco ice cream. There's a novel.
Is that a novel?
That doesn't really seem like
It's on the shelf next to How to Eat Worms, fried worms.
I guess it's just stuff we can shove in there, or it could be a launching point. I don't know. A ship launch ceremony. Bank robber is on the loose, hiding in a typical American subdivision. A hurricane forces random people to take shelter together for many hours. I've gone through that. A fun run goes horribly wrong. Well, I think any run is horribly wrong. That kid isn't mine. I guess that's Billie Jean's story. A tenant refuses to leave.
Ooh.
A dollar store heist.
A dollar store heist. Oh, that's kind of awesome.
I like it as an LOL title.
Yeah, me too.
A limo driver finds something left in the back on New Year's. A baby. A group of explorers searching a sinkhole in Florida find that it's actually a portal to another dimension where Floridian midnight Walmart shoppers are the ruling class. 3 kids on their bikes being chased by a van with a wizard painted on the side of it.
Ooh.
A Walmart greeter, I guess we love Walmart here. A Walmart greeter finds out he's a target of a time-traveling hitman, plus clowns. Things. Killer fish, but not like sharks or killer whales. Killer sunfish or mackerel.
Sorry, things are, what's this category? This is just stuff to add, random
Things. Stuff. Yeah, I guess things we could throw in there. A stray dog, pogo sticks, a spell book that devours people, plus dogs. Oh, no, not plus. Pug dogs. Okay. Man-eating pixie fairies or dust bunnies. Lion acting like a kitten on catnip. Last bottle of water. So that's what we got.
Okay. Can I please hear the characters again?
Blind child, 90-year-old immigrant woman, single mother superhero, compulsive liar, an odd job man, random guy in a bar that everyone seems to know, an evil podiatrist, a young girl or boy whose only friend is a tree in the backyard, a geisha, a true one, a dog searching for his owner who left one day and never came back, a dragon who just wants to be left alone already. I feel like I read that in a fantasy story once. The Last Dinosaur, a group of people whose powers manifest through spoken spell battles, a young woman whose phone is haunted by a victim of a texting while driving accident, a patient who discovers her hives outbreak was really an alien virus, strangers in an elevator. We'll call that one Who Farted. Prisoner cuffed in a plane, zombie warlord, or everyone's favorite mayor of Redacted.
All right. Well, I'm going to say on characters, I'm willing to toss them up in the air because a lot of those characters came with situations attached. So the evil podiatrist, the man's shackled on the plane, those are presumed situations, and the rest, I'm not allegiant to any particular characters, but I do like the blind child. So not that is necessary, but
yeah, I like the blind child also. So the blind child, if we're just going with a random story, but because I think there's a lot you could do with a blind child. I think that's interesting.
Or basically full of them.
I would spend a day walking around with something over. Like I would try to be blind for a day or something. I think that might be interesting to get a feel for that.
Yeah, like immediately I heard blind child and I started thinking about Bat Boy. Have you heard about that guy? He's amazing.
Oh, that kid's amazing.
Yeah. And
you're talking about like from a while ago. That isn't recent, right?
No, it's from a while ago. And I actually have a Realm and Sand short outlined that has this character. I've
mentioned that dude over and over. So if you don't know this, I've never heard him called Bat Boy, but assuming we're talking about the same guy, it's pretty apparent. There's videos on YouTube and he can echolocate like a bat. So he makes like a clicking sound, I want to say.
Yeah. He does it with his tongue.
And they show him walking like down the street with a reporter, and there's a car there, there's a trash can, or he doesn't know it's a trash can. He's like, there's something.
There's a man with a $20 bill and a $5 bill.
He goes, that's a trash can. He reaches out and kicks it. They show him like playing video games and how you can echolocate in video games. I don't have a clue, but it's amazing. He knows.
He's amazing. He's like a trail guide for people like on these narrow cliffs and shit.
He's lying.
No, it's
the same guy.
I'm sure it is. Yeah.
Because I think the one I'm thinking of may have died.
Oh, this guy's definitely
fell off the cliff.
This guy's definitely alive. He
if you want to Google Bat Boy, by the way, you're going to get the National Enquirer Bat Boy.
All right. So I like the carnival, and I was thinking like we could do a carnival situation where there's a hurricane that comes in and a carnival that's come to town and set up all of a sudden has to batten down the and the people who are at the carnival, like these are all people who could be at the carnival. The blind child, who is maybe he's an exhibit, right? He's like the blind child who can see the future. He can tell you all about you, even though he can't see you. A compulsive liar. Or he just
echolocates and like describes you to a T.
Yeah, like that'd be kind of amazing, right? You could see that in a carnival.
I like that.
A compulsive liar in that setting would be awesome. Well,
it's a carnival, of course. There's going to be
an odd job man, like obviously. The dog searching for its owner. Like it was dog friendly and the owner came with the dog.
You guys shove every character into this story.
Well, no,
you can put the dog with the carnival people.
No, and then the last one is The Last Dinosaur, which is some like really shitty exhibit that they call The Last Dinosaur, but it's like a fucking like alligator with like a unicorn horn or something that they do.
That sounds like a Florida carnival.
Right, it's a traveling carnival. But if we don't do the carnival, I really like the idea of suburban haunted house. I don't know what that means. Like
business.
Or a business, yeah. The haunted house business. I thought that was cool. And then the Berkeley Math Conference got a big ding, and I like the Lost City in the Desert a lot. In fact, I think it could be cool if the blind child is somehow the only compass to this lost city in the desert. That could be kind of cool.
Yeah, that sounds like a fantasy or like a Dark Tower feel to me.
Yeah.
Tower.
And I also liked the Tenant Won't Leave and Hurricane were my two favorite situations.
Those were actually mine too.
Okay,
the
awesome.
One I had was the Sinkhole, but I like the Hurricane because it has kind of a mist feel to it, even though I hated the mist, the movie.
Well, we could do it differently.
But the feel is right.
And shit going on.
Well, it's just you throw a bunch of interesting people together, and they're nice at the beginning, and then
that's what I like. I like the total like decay of humanity that you could have, and like maybe they expected it's only going to be a few hours. That ends up days. Like the hurricane won't fucking stop.
And I like Tenant Won't Leave, but I think I would just end up aping Pacific Heights, which is great, by the way.
I love Pacific Heights. Michael Keaton's so good.
So like a supernatural hurricane that cuts off contact to the rest of the world.
Yeah, I think that's kind of cool, and I like this little cast. I mean, we could add and subtract, but I think that I like the premise.
Normal hurricane, but I could work with either. Absolutely, if we want.
I like supernatural. I like monsters and shit in it.
Yeah, I like the idea of a hurricane that, they expect it's only going to last this amount of time, but then that amount of time passes and it's only getting worse and worse and worse. And, like after a few days, people are asking themselves, is this it? Is this the end of the world?
Well, it'd also be flooding. If a hurricane stalls out over you, it's going to be flooding.
So think about the escalating danger there. And what if all of a sudden,
and let's not ape the mist. So we want to, what are differentiators?
Well, right. What if there's something all of a sudden, there's crazy shit in the water, right? It's rising, but it's not just water. There's something in there. Like
you feel a little similar to the mist with the crazy shit in the fog.
Well, yeah, I guess you do. But if it's supernatural, what's the point? What's supernatural about it other than it being relentless?
Let's talk to our supernatural consultant. Dave, what appeals to you most about the supernatural aspect?
In a hurricane, if you're in a house and you're all boarded up, you don't go outside during, while it's going on, and you hear a lot of noise going on. You hear bumping against a house, you hear trees grinding against your house, and you're like anything could be happening outside, and it's kind of a scary notion. You don't know what's going on. So if you amplify that,
wait. Okay. What if it's not monsters? What if the stuff that's coming in is like body parts or something, like evidence that something really terrible is happening?
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, that actually is kind of interesting, because originally you were, when you said body parts and stuff, I was thinking of this is the end, which also is really funny. But I mean, I don't know, maybe it's stupid, but I almost kind of like that in almost the literal sense of the word. You're talking about clues that something's going on. I'm almost talking evidence. I don't know, maybe
it could be body parts. I think anything that says okay, something really, really bad is happening and we have no idea because we're stuck in a hurricane. But I also like because there's going to be a power grab at some point, right? There's limited supplies. The carnival.
That's an obligatory scene. The power.
Yeah, of course.
The negative about a carnival is it's a temporary thing. It's not exactly something where you could have a lot of shelter.
Well, we still doing carnival? Because I didn't.
Well, I'm thinking the haunted house might be the way to go here. Everybody goes to this haunted house because it's the most stable house around. And
or what if the haunted house? We said suburban, but what if it's not? What if it's one of those houses you have to go out to, like an old mansion, and so the reason they all end up there is because they're
stuck.
Yeah.
Well, hurricanes typically very slow moving, so you have a lot of advance warning. So a place would be closed down if a hurricane's approaching, unless it's all of a sudden automatic
hurricane.
All right. So,
well, I do could it be in exurbia instead of suburbia? So it is out. I mean, it's 45 minutes outside of the city, and it's just these big homes. And well, no, because you wouldn't.
It could be something that isn't literally a haunted house. It just they think it's the most logical shelter, and of course.
Whoa, okay. What if it's because Dave has kind of a fetish for this, and I do too. No, it's abandoned cities.
Oh,
right?
I love those. Yeah.
So what if it's somebody bought an abandoned city, right? In fact, somebody did do this out in Reno. There's an old abandoned city, and somebody bought the city. Okay, they own this ghost town. So somebody buys a ghost town and makes it the world's best haunted house. And so
the whole town is a haunted house.
So the whole town is a haunted house.
So it's an attraction. And Florida's known for its attractions.
And shit's just going down there, right? It's just that's it. And within that, that's when the hurricane happens and everybody scrambles, and there are different parts in the haunted house or in the city, and they're just battening down. But that's it. But the city, because it's self-sustained and they're dealing with tourist traffic, they have food. I mean, they're making funnel cakes, right?
Well, I'm gonna actually go back to what Dave said now that he pointed it out. My brain's on that. And even if it's 45 minutes out of the city with a non-supernatural hurricane, you're going to know days in advance, right? So would they hang out in the ghost town?
No, I think Sean's saying they'd be trapped. The hurricane would just suddenly appear.
Right. So we are talking a supernatural hurricane.
Yes.
Yeah, I think if you're
or it could be the people maybe it's the people that work there. Maybe the people who work and live in the town. So they're
I like that. It's a smaller cast.
Okay, so, that I like. So maybe
that I like. So it's only
they're closing down and preparing for the hurricane that's coming.
Yes.
And Floridians are typically not worried about hurricanes unless they live right on the shore, or like they know it's going to be direct impact. So any other hurricane that's not a direct impact, they're kind of like, okay, we'll just batten down, we'll buy some water and shit, everything will be fine, and it's like a party. But it doesn't. It's like a really bad party.
Yeah, I think it's much, much stronger with tourists not there.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, so how long what if it...
You would need to... I think you spend some time with this setting it up. I think that the inciting incident doesn't happen until a ways into this book. I think...
Yeah, the hurricane can hit at the end of Act 1. Like,
okay, we can have the boy or a girl, like a kid or teenager or whatever, that goes looking for their lost dog. Like they want to find the dog and bring it back before the hurricane hits.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
And the dog's like in the woods, like in the swamp, and the kid sees the dog and it calls to it, and then the dog it's like doing something in the dirt, and then it comes out and it's got like a hand in its mouth, or it's like it's some thing.
We name the dog Vader.
And have him bark for 5 pages.
Okay, so what kind of timeline are we talking about here? Because if there are no tourists there, then they do have a fair amount of resources. So we want them to bleed through those resources.
And a lot of alcohol.
And a lot of alcohol, right? So
we want them to bleed through their resources?
Yeah, because you want them to fight. You want them to actually feel like they're in jeopardy.
Well, that's a very prolonged thing. I think it's more people aren't going to eat through all their resources in a few days, unless you're extending this a month or something. But I mean, that seems like, I think it's more impactful because in a month the place will be flooded anyway. So
okay, then what has to happen? There has to be something that escalates.
They hear shit going on. They hear shit going on. And they're scared, and like somebody, like maybe the kid hasn't come back with a dog or something, and they decide to go out and look for it, and like they're just picked off.
So then resources are not an issue. That's not part of the story. No. So you're not going to have a power struggle. So this is basically, but then that does turn into the mist, kind of.
There could be one key resource, though. There could be like one thing that they need, and maybe they don't even realize it until things are underway.
Guns.
Yeah, well, I think in this kind of story,
a generator that's going to flood, or I mean,
it has to be something. There has to be a power struggle over something in this kind of, like, even if it's just a power struggle for who gets to call the shots,
who gets the last Twinkie.
What if you set up? I mentioned Needful Things earlier for Stephen King. So he does a great job of setting up that town before he sets the guy loose on it, right? So you get the feeling that there are pre-existing gripes between people, right? Like a married couple who's on the outs, or somebody who's cheating, or there's somebody who the other guy thinks he's stealing from him, or something like that. And then this all magnifies it, and maybe they make their little kingdoms within the town. Maybe, like, I'm taking over the gunnery or whatever. I'm taking over the general store. Maybe.
Yeah, because you have a real
it's kind of Lord of the Flies.
Yeah, a little bit like Lord of the Flies in Westworld. Right.
Beth Farrar says it's about employees there. The clicks will be there. And Jack Orman says when water supply is knocked out, it's very serious, very fast. Yeah. Here's a thought. What if they have like all their supplies in like a building that is cut off, like trees fall on it or something, and they can't get to it without going into the storm. But when they go out, like just they hear horrible like the last person goes out dies, and like I'm not going out.
Yeah, no, I actually
so you could
really
have dwindling resources that way.
Yeah, I love this premise because I think that there's a lot of inherent terror. There's a lot of really scary unknown elements here. All right, I know we don't have a ton of time, so I don't know how deep we can dig, but do we want to talk about what is out there, what is happening? Because I don't want to
right.
Well, one of the things, like I would be saying, okay, so that we've described a situation. So, but what is the arc, right? Like, because there needs to be some escalating tension with it.
Well, is this a short story or is this a book? Because that's a very different approach. like Infinite Doors as we wrote it was a short, but this is I mean, I would just totally approach this differently if it was 10,000 words versus 100,000, because then you need narrative drive, you need acts, right?
I think it would be interesting in a longer story to really draw it out into novel length.
Yeah,
you need a lot more. Then you can't just say, well, they're in a situation,
right? But there's a lot of really good set pieces here. Going out, like the one Dave just described, going out into the storm, and I mean, that's it. We had Realm and Sands Day this week, and Johnny and I went and saw Alien, and it's that classic scene, right, where they have to go out there. They're going out there, and somebody's going to die, but that's just so terrifying. It elevates tension. Like there's classic horror scenes that can happen here, but it's an interesting setting that we haven't seen before, and that's kind of exciting. But I don't.
I think it could work as either or. I'm thinking more of a short story. I wouldn't want to drag this on too long. I don't know.
Well, in my mind, the idea of if it were a longer book, it wouldn't be dragging it out into 100,000 words. It would be adding a lot of other stuff that isn't here yet.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Because I think we do have
stuff.
We actually do have enough elements for a short story now, but are we taking what we're having and then structuring it into a short story with the little time we have left? Or are we going to try to see, well, how would this work as a book? Or maybe that's actually the best way to spend this time. I mean, we're not going to write the book, but we kind of
write it.
Of course you do. You can't talk about anything.
I want to do this.
So
Dave has a flow chart that looks like this. Is it something different than what I'm doing right now? Yes, interested.
That's very true. So what's the best way, what's the highest impact for our audience way to spend the next few minutes?
Well, I mean, I think the more interesting thing for the audience, if I could guess, is the thought process, not the actual ideas, right? So like what would we do at this point? So if they had the skeleton of an idea, what would be the next thing? And so as I mentioned, if we were doing this as a novel, I would begin to ask, who are the main characters and what are their arcs? Their villain that they're defeating, that sort of thing.
Yeah, if this is a short story for me, I already feel like I have enough, and I would just put the events in the order that they needed to happen and kind of write the story as it happened in my head.
Now that I think about it, I kind of like it as a book and adding more characters and stuff.
Well, right. I do too. I prefer this premise actually as
I like having a blind child there. Keep them there.
To a short story. But for me, I would want to know, I'd want to add a lot more characters because you're going to be spending time with these people, and I'd want to know who they are. So for me, I would have enough, like if it's a short story, okay, that's it. It's already the stuff that we've generated during this episode, that's an outline, and then that could be written too. If we're going full novel, then I want to know the people that I'm going to spend time with. And then as I'm creating those people, then I'm going to understand the situation that would be the most dramatic for those people. And a lot of the story would come from that. And whether I was outlining that alone for Johnny, that's how I would do it. And if I was working on this project with Dave, I think we would just really talk, and like within an hour, we'd have a pretty good premise for
the characters Go ahead, Dave.
Well, I think a cool idea would be wherever we stop off at this point now, like we do take it and run like differently, like, and we see what kind of story each of us comes up with. It would be like a joint project we'd release.
Well, that's great, except for we just swore up and down on our side wouldn't add any new projects.
Right. Okay, here's what I will say to that. I think that we should do that someday. The projects we've already, if we're going to do that, we should do it with the project we've already created to do that exact thing. But I love that idea because I think that story is so elastic, and I feel like people get really allegiant to these ideas and think they're looking for this great idea. But if you can see how pliable creativity is, and the ideas can come from anywhere. Yeah, Dave, you're all.
Beth Farrar just added an awesome idea. What if their fear intentions just make the storm worse?
Oh, that's awesome.
and they
like,
have to find out. Yeah.
like they're driving it. And
like
so
psychologically somehow, like maybe like all their fears or whatever.
And they'd be like, calm down, motherfucker. Oh, hold on, that doesn't work. No, let me make the point that I was going to make when Dave and I both started talking up at the same time about plot and character. So I would say that those need to be arc, like the arc of the story, and character, in my mind, need to kind of come together. Just as an example, in a project that we're working on, we had, well, this could happen, and we had to redirect because we're like, no, it's not this guy's arc, it's the other guy's story. So we needed to shift things such that the character that we had presented as central was the one who had the arc, the traditional hero's journey, rather than like, well, here's some stuff that happened and we can see how the rest of that plays out. It's not good enough. So if we were looking to novelize this at this point, I would be looking at those two things together. Like, who is it and what do they have to overcome? And then map those out together.
But if it's a short story, we could just have random people experiencing this, and you don't even have to have like an explanation at the end. Everyone could just die. I mean,
that's what I like about shorts is they can always have that Twilight Zone ending where it just is a hook, and then you go, ooh, like there was a hook, and then you just stop. You're done.
The hook is they're in Florida, and it's like the Lovecraftian monsters are giant hillbillies.
Right, everything's normal. There's not anything actually weird going on. Like, on the stage just comes out and goes, "This is just life here."
You know what I think would be cool is to write this, Dave specifically, as a short story. Like we write it as a short story, but then we use that short story as kind of beats to make our book and write something longer, which we can't do for a long time. But if we like the story of the world, we can. Because King did that with Duma Key. Did you ever read Duma Key?
No, I didn't. Was it a short story?
Duma Key was a short story, and then he said,
"Same name."
No, I think it had a different name.
Yeah,
but
was it published?
It was published. Oh. Yeah, and then he said, "You know what? I'm just going to write a 30 billion word version of that short story," and he did.
Yeah. Now, see, as an interesting aside on that, I actually had my version of this from the last live brainstorming on the calendar, and I was actually going to write it. I listened to the episode again, I did the whole thing, and what stopped me, and I pointed this out to Sean, is I said, on that call, I go back and listen to it. Sean and I were outlining a novel. Like, that was not a short story. There was no way you can't shorten it. You can't condense it and say, take this outline and have it happen faster or simpler. Doesn't work that way. Like, the structure is fundamentally different.
Right. And that's why this time I wanted to know, are we talking about a short story or a book? Because they are fundamentally different things.
Right. Could we each do this like for Halloween release, like a short story? Like you and me will do it and you and Johnny will do it? I mean, is that worth the effort? I don't know.
Well, I got to say, I'm a lot less interested in it as a short story, just personally. I mean, I'm not saying no, but I haven't read the last one either.
Okay.
Yeah, there's some stuff to talk about here, but
all right.
Not right now.
The idea of furthering collaboration, that was actually something we even put on the goals.
Yeah, and I have a couple of specific ideas for how we could do this exactly, but yeah, we're closing the show, and that's like more of a company meeting stuff than anything. So anyway, yeah, but I like how this went. I love these brainstorming episodes. I know we can't do them all the time, but
somebody actually emailed me and said, I'm glad you wrote Infinite Doors. If you didn't, I was going to steal the idea and write it myself. So I wonder if anybody watching this is going to like run with it.
Watch next year. There's 15 books about about supernatural hurricanes taking over carnivals. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So anyhow,
I had fun. I enjoyed this.
Yeah. This was really cool. I know we're out of time, but I love it, and I guess we'll be back next week.
All right. Thanks everybody for listening.
Thank you.